Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hundreds of people across San Diego County were up before the sun this morning with one goal: count the number of people experiencing homelessness. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. It's the annual point-in-time count. We have coverage from the city of San Diego as well as North County. And we begin with KPBS reporter John Carroll, who takes us along with two volunteers.
Are you currently experiencing homelessness because you're fleeing a domestic violence?
16th Street in the East Village. Well before dawn, it's cold and still damp from Monday's deluge. Two volunteers from Father Joe's Villages wearing orange safety vests set out on their task. They ask questions, some perfunctory.
Date of birth?
September 8th, 1959.
Others produce answers that are heartbreaking.
Is this the first time you've been homeless in your life?
Yeah, November 6th, 3 years ago.
The nonprofit Downtown San Diego Partnership says since the city's safe sleeping sites opened, the number of homeless in the downtown area has dropped from about 1,200 in May of last year to fewer than 900 now. Later in the morning, we came down here to the city's first safe sleeping site, the one located right next to the city operations yard. It's also located right next to this major storm drain. So as you might imagine, on Monday, things got very wet very fast down here.
The water was literally up to almost my kneecaps. It was that bad.
Seth Estep actually lives in the city's larger safe sleeping site on the edge of Balboa Park. It's known as the O Lot, but he works down at this site. He says the O-Lot fared better in Monday's torrential rain, but living in a tent during a deluge is difficult.
They leak in the cold. They hold a lot of cold weather in, and it just gets you really cold in there. Thank God I got, my sleeping bag, and I got a blanket that keeps me warm at night.
We asked Councilman Stephen Whitburn to join us this morning. He was the driving force behind the city's encampment ban and the creation of the safe sleeping sites.
Here at the 20th and B safe sleeping site, there was some water, so we moved people out of this site and into temporary shelter for a couple of days. This dried out pretty quickly, so they're back now. Everything's fine.
Everything is most definitely not fine for those still on the streets, like Frank Gentili, who rode up on his bike while we were shooting this story.
I feel really unsafe. I feel like I'm going crazy, man. I really am. And I'm fighting with the drugs. I need some type of help. I need help really bad.
A staffer here told Gentili where to go to get that help, to get into a tent here, where there is security and there are services that can help people transition into housing.
So you guys know you can go to the meal vacation. If you guys haven't been there yet, it has showers, it has mail services, it has snacks.
You mean there? Okay, we're going to leave you a pair of gloves.
The point-in-time count will continue this evening, a data point that will put a number on the human tragedy of homelessness. John Carroll, KPBS News.
We also joined volunteers as they conducted the point-in-time count early this morning in the North County. Coming up, we meet a person who shows having a job doesn't always mean having a place to live. Now to the latest on the impact of the 1,000-year storm that pummeled our region this week. This afternoon, San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria said Vice President Kamala Harris called to express her desire to help. While the city and county work to secure a federal disaster declaration, the county and the San Diego Foundation set up a new flood response fund to accept donations. The money raised from the fund will be directed to nonprofits helping flood victims. Earlier today, our media partner KGTV got a look inside one man's damaged home.
This is so sad.
It is.
My dad came to this country with nothing, no money. He didn't know any English. He didn't know anybody. And he just, all this, through hard work and perseverance, he was able to, buy this house.
The San Diego Foundation will match donations up to $100,000. If you would like to donate, we have the link on our website. Visit kpbs.org/weather.
I'm Ariella Scalise, and we are tracking some changes here. A nice warming trend will be on the way. Tonight, temperatures will be dropping down into the 40s. We'll take a closer look at what we can expect as we wrap up the week and head into the weekend. That's all coming up.
New funding was announced today to improve a railway bridge in North County. This as another landslide in Orange County is disrupting train traffic. KPBS North County reporter Alexander Nguyen has details on when the tracks will reopen and how the new funding aims to prevent such disruption in the future.
The Los Angeles-San Diego-San Luis Obispo Rail Corridor, or LoSAN, is the second busiest intercity rail corridor in the nation, according to the San Diego Association of Governments. It's San Diego's only rail connection to the rest of the nation. So when rail traffic stops, because a landslide threatens the tracks, it not only disrupts passenger service.
There was a woman there who was Spanish speaking, and she had ridden the train from Riverside, and she landed at the Laguna Niguel Mission Viejo station, and she was trying to get to Vista. She didn't know the trains had been closed down, and she was stuck.
It also disrupts commerce.
Just as important are the $1 billion in commerce that flows through the rail corridor every year.
Congressman Mike Levin highlights that point during his news conference today, announcing funding to replace the 109-year-old San Diego Railway River Bridge.
This morning, we had hoped to go all the way up to Los Angeles and Union Station.
Instead, Levin ended his rail trip in Oceanside before driving to San Clemente to tour the landslide, which took out a pedestrian bridge.
Mother Nature will win. Mother Nature always wins, and we have to be mindful that regardless of what we do with this corridor, if it stays where it is or if parts of it are relocated, regardless, in any event, it's going to take significant federal investment.
That's where the $53.8 million in funding from the bipartisan infrastructure bill comes in. It will be used to replace the bridge, moving it from a single track to a double track and raising the bridge by 8 feet because of sea level rise. It will also add a special stop at the Del Mar Fairgrounds. State Senator Kathleen Blakespear says it's a precursor to moving the tracks underground and away from the bluffs in Del Mar.
The train is our solution, part of our solution to the climate crisis, to our equity concerns, to reducing congestion on local roads, to improving the well-being and health of communities.
A few years ago, several bluff collapses in Del Mar disrupted rail service on the corridor. Now that's happening in San Clemente. In the past 18 months, several landslides have happened here in San Clemente. Over there is where Casa Romantica happened, and now this landslide. San Clemente's council member Chris Duncan was not pleased, but he says the corridor should reopen in a few days.
It's frustrating for me, but it's really frustrating for our residents, right, who get to enjoy this beach trail.
Securing funding for future infrastructure needs on the corridor is why Levin also announced today $500,000 in additional funding to get LoSAN onto the Corridor ID program. The program helps ID critical rail infrastructure needs. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
The city of San Diego says it's working urgently to resolve the train noise issue disrupting residents downtown. A week has passed since the Federal Railroad Administration temporarily suspended the quiet zone for the large train. Per the FRA, trains are now required to sound their horns when entering a crossing due to the city failing to comply with several safety rules. Residents say they can't go 10 minutes without trains blaring out their horns.
Nobody can get any sleep. It's really disconcerting. Just when you're kind of getting into a groove, it's a honk, honk, honk.
And the city says crews are actively installing pavement striping at all intersections. The city also expects to submit the traffic count survey required to bring the zone back into compliance to the FRA for review by next week. An investigation found the Metropolitan Transit System did not fire an employee last year in retaliation for accusing ex-board member Nathan Fletcher of sexual assault. KPBS's Amitha Sharma says the investigation was commissioned by MTS itself.
The inquiry stems from a lawsuit filed last March against the agency by former MTS PR specialist Gracia Figueroa. Figueroa had alleged MTS failed to prevent Fletcher, who was also a San Diego County supervisor, from sexually harassing her. She also accused the agency of firing her because of Fletcher's alleged harassment. The MTS probe carried out by Oppenheimer Investigations Group drew a different conclusion. The firm found no evidence that MTS knew of either a consensual or non-consensual relationship between Figueroa and Fletcher. No evidence that MTS terminated Figueroa at the recommendation or direction of Fletcher, and that Figueroa's supervisors said there was a plausible explanation for the termination based on Figueroa's own job performance. Figueroa's lawyer, Jessica Pride, said in a statement to KPBS that they are disappointed but unsurprised by MTS's, quote, purported independent results, adding, quote, it is clear Ms. Figueroa was thriving at work before Fletcher announced his run for political office. It is also crucial and telling that Ms. Figueroa was not even interviewed or consulted by the supposedly independent body performing this investigation. How could a fair or impartial investigation occur when the victim herself is not given the opportunity to tell her story? Fletcher resigned from the Board of Supervisors following Figueroa's allegations. Pride said Figueroa's lawsuit against MTS and Fletcher is headed for a trial this year. Amita Sharma, KPBS News.
Trump White House official Peter Navarro was sentenced today to 4 months behind bars. He was convicted of contempt of Congress for refusing to cooperate with a congressional investigation into the attack on the U.S. Capitol. Navarro, a San Diego mayoral candidate in 1992, served as a trade advisor under President Trump. His sentencing comes after a judge rejected his bid for a new trial. Despite consumer and business spending driving economic growth to close out 2023, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says it is still too hard to be a working parent in America. In a speech in Chicago, she outlined ways she hopes federal economic policy can help. Karen Kaifa has more.
Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen in Chicago Thursday addressing a topic that hits home for millions of Americans.
It's still too hard to be a working parent.
The speech, an effort to highlight administration economic policy as President Joe Biden campaigns for a second term. But polls show American voters are skeptical about Biden's handling of the economy, despite cooling inflation and a resilient job market. Families in particular feeling the pressures of a challenging housing market and child care costs that have increased with demand and shorter post-pandemic supply.
Child care is exceedingly expensive right now in this country, and that makes it difficult for families to work.
Wendy Edelberg of the Brookings Institution says the child care system suffers from underinvestment, from training to retaining workers.
There's a lot of turnover in the system. It is difficult for a child care facility to maintain stable, high-quality child care in the face of all of these pressures.
Meanwhile, a tight housing market continues to vex homebuyers, but especially families. Edelberg says relief is less about the strength of the economy and more about the policies within it.
There's a lot that we should be doing to make it easier both to work and to raise children, and to make it more worthwhile to work.
The Commerce Department said Thursday that consumers continued to spend in the last 3 months of 2023, with economic growth rising at an annualized rate of 3.3%. In Washington, I'm Karen Kaifa.
Homelessness can look different ways and affects people in a wide range of San Diego communities, including North County. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer woke up early this morning to see what it was like to take part in the annual point-in-time count for Vista and San Marcos.
Hey, where's Clay at? It was an early wake-up call, a 4 a.m. start for nearly 60 volunteers in Vista who took part in the one-night snapshot of the region's homeless population, known as the point-in-time count.
You're looking for people that are covering their windows at night, so somebody that might have a sunshade up, somebody that has a bunch of trash in the back of the vehicle, right?
KPBS joined a team of 3 volunteers, Catherine Manis, Joanne Foss, and Alicia Tabares, as they set out in the dark to cover their assigned district along the Vista-San Marcos border.
I work with a lot of the families who unfortunately don't have a house or are living in their vehicles.
Driving through business parks, canyons, and almost everywhere in between, the group searched for people without a proper home. It's not a perfect system. Volunteers look for clues to give them insight on where people may be sleeping.
But we did find several families living in their, like in the RVs, in their cars, individuals who are, working also.
During the 4 hours of scanning, the team encountered numerous people without homes and interviewed those who were willing to talk. One of them was Jason, who didn't want to use his last name.
There's some good people out here and trying hard, working hard, doing their part. I've always paid taxes. I've always held a job. I've never taken a subsidy from the government. I've never taken food stamps and always supported my children. Always done that all the time.
He was a longtime Oceanside resident and became homeless in the city 6 years ago. Now, he sleeps in a van near his place of work in Vista. He says the cost of food, gas, and housing are just too much.
Prices were going up in rent, especially here in San Diego. Couldn't afford to live. You know, my wife at the time she's permanently disabled with asthma, had 2 children. On a single income, just couldn't afford it anymore.
The data from the point-in-time count really matters. It's used to determine how to distribute federal homeless relief funding. Sturman says those funds should go towards a regional solution.
North County homelessness isn't necessarily a singular city problem. We have the Sprinter line up here, that's with 78 corridor, right? And so a lot of our clients travel across that 78 corridor. One night they might be in Escondido, the next night they might be in Vista, Oceanside, Carlsbad.
As for Tabarez, who grew up in Vista and was forced out of the county due to cost of living, it's personal.
The concerns that I have for the community where I grew up in, it's been a lot of just not having access to affordable housing.
Official numbers for the full count are expected in the late spring or early summer. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Students are back in the classroom at Kip Adelante Prep Academy. The school is in the Choyas View neighborhood, which is one of the areas that flooded in Monday's storm. It was so bad, students had to stand on top of their desks to avoid getting wet. For the past 2 days, staff have been getting classrooms ready for kids to return.
This is their safe space, and this is where they enjoy time with their friends. This is where they learn. So just seeing the joy of families being able to come back to campus it's been a highlight of my morning.
And the school told our media partner KGTV that they brought in extra counselors on campus for students and faculty in case they are needed. World Beat Cultural Center in Balboa Park is back open after experiencing flooding that forced it to temporarily close.
It was coming from the streets, and it came down all inside. It ran inside the World Beat Center, and we had a drain. One of the major drains for years have been stopped up. We got it. We found it. It took us digging out of my beautiful plants, and we found the drain. So we have to really unstop it. We're putting dehumidifiers in so we can take the water out the air, and so we don't have mold. That's what you're trying to really fight in some of these things that happen with flooding. I want to thank the park for coming out so promptly and helping me. And I want to thank all our friends of World Beat Center for coming out and shoveling and sweeping and saving the World Beat Center. Thanks so much.
The center is running a fundraiser to help cover the costs of repairing water-damaged areas. If your home or business was damaged during the storm, you're asked to fill out an online survey. Completing the damage survey does not guarantee you will be eligible to receive disaster relief assistance, but the information will be helpful in the county's requests for federal aid. And you can find a link on our website. Just go to kpbs.org/weather.
And let's start off with our weather headlines. We're going to be tracking a strengthening offshore flow. And what that's going to do is start to warm temperatures. We're talking some 10 to even close to 15 degrees above the historical average at times. That's going to be something nice to enjoy before eventually we watch a wetter pattern returning as we head into the middle of next week. Dry through tonight, down into the 40s for Oceanside, 49 in San Diego, and Chula Vista down to about 46. Borrego Springs 42, and a Cool night in Mount Laguna, down to 34. Through the day on Friday, we start to watch that strengthening offshore flow, bringing us a pretty pleasant stretch of weather into San Diego as we do wrap up our week. So hopefully you have some plans to be outside. 68 of the mostly sunny sky. Borrego Springs, you get up to 70 degrees. And Mount Laguna, you'll stay into the 40s as we head into the day tomorrow. Saturday is another good stretch of weather, a comfortable start to the weekend. So nice weather lingers as we head into the next several days. I want to show you the coast here as temperatures will be warming up. Take a look at Saturday, up to 74 degrees, some nice beach conditions. Into Sunday we go, 73 degrees, and then slight decrease in temperatures Monday at 70, but plenty of sunshine still sticking around on Tuesday with temperatures into the upper 60s. We go further inland here where we're going to watch a steady climb in temperatures, 74 on Friday, 78 on Saturday, and pushing near 80 as we head into the day on Sunday. And then as we head into next week, we'll start to see temperatures come down a few degrees, but still staying very sunny and pleasant. If you have a trip planned to the mountains here, it's going to stay chilly as we head throughout our day on Friday, only 45 degrees. We'll notice temperatures come up a bit here as things get breezier throughout the day on Saturday, 49 and upper 40s with breezy conditions to start the day on Sunday before temperatures drop back down again for Monday and Tuesday. And making your way out to the desert, maybe for some hiking, pretty nice conditions for Friday and Saturday, temperatures into the 70s, and we'll see temperatures peaking through next week. For KPBS News, I'm Ariella Scalise.
A new program aims to shift money San Diego County already spends on food to food grown by local farmers. KPBS reporter John Carroll shows us how one San Diego business is helping the whole system work.
99% of our farms are just right here in the county.
It's a busy day for Kristen Kavernland at Food Shed Cooperative on Fairmount Avenue. She's talking about the farms Food Shed works with, the importance of sourcing food locally. On this day, her team is packing up food deliveries, mainly for low-income people of color.
The more we invest, like the better it is for the environment, the more nutritionally dense the food is, and the more you can support small local businesses and keep your money circulating in the community.
Investing in the community. That's what the county's new Sustainable, Equitable, and Local Food Sourcing Program is all about.
It's just vast, the number of different programs that we have that serve meals and serve our communities.
County Supervisor Tara Lawson-Reamer says shortly after being elected a supervisor, she discovered that the county's way of paying for all that food largely left local farmers out of the picture. So she set about designing a program that utilizes what she calls a values-based system that prioritizes San Diego County farmers.
We have the value of buying nutritious food. We have the value of buying food that doesn't exploit the workers and, have people, working and not getting a water break or whatever, getting them to go to the bathroom. That we got to have the value of making sure that the food that we buy for the county is grown in a way that's not contributing to our stormwater runoff.
Those values have been part of the Food Shed operation for the last few years. Kristen Kavernland says with the county program now in place, it will help Food Shed to turn the traditional system of procuring food on its head. The way it works now is schools, jails, and all sorts of programs that feed people decide what they need and then order the food. Kavernland says with Food Shed, it's just the opposite. She first talks to the buyers to find out what they need so the farmers can grow what's needed.
We're asking our buyers to work with us to plan together so that we can guarantee the farmers their sale. So we have to predict our markets 6 months to a year in advance, and then I create a collective crop plan, and I go out and I let the farmers know we need, 15,000 bunches of carrots this year and 20,000 heads of lettuce. Who can grow it? And we divide it up amongst all of our farms.
Kavernland says doing business this way also helps diversify risk. So if one farm has a failure, others can pick up the slack. And that, she says, builds resilience in the local food system. In other words, what they do at Food Shed dovetails with the county's new program.
I think it's huge for our farm. It's huge for all the other local farms in this area.
Mike Clark of Rodriguez Family Farms in Valley Center is thrilled with the new county program, and he says Food Shed is an important part of the process.
So us farmers, we're busy with farming, and it takes a lot of effort and a lot of time to do the farming work. So down there at Food Shed, they're doing amazing work, you know, bringing that connection to us and, you know, the schools and the correction facilities, you know, wherever this product and this money is going to be going to.
Along with the various types of squash, kale, and strawberries, there's something else to be found on Rodriguez Family Farms. This product is of the rhythmic variety. It's Clark's cousin, Mongoil Rodriguez, communicating a message about the importance of organic farming in his own unique way.
Yo, last of a dying breed, protectors of a righteous creed. We need more non-GMO seeds, more chances to advance without politicians taking a stance against us.
In other words, just what the new county program is designed to do: refocus the support of the county, of the taxpayers' money, to San Diego County's farmers. John Carroll, KPBS News.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, negotiations on funding for Ukraine and the U.S. southern border are threatened by Republican infighting. That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. NPR's Morning Edition has tips for non-football fans to fake it until they make it, with only 4 teams remaining in NFL playoffs. And KPBS Roundtable is rounding up local reporters to talk about this week's record-breaking storm and its impact on our region. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Krebs Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following: by viewers like you. Thank you.